What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. And this Saturday night, we have a massive UFC title fight. We got Robert Whittaker, the UFC middleweight champion, who's looking to defend his title against the UFC interim middleweight champion, Israel Adesanya. I've been very excited for this fight. This fight is a couple years in the making due to the fact that one fighter has completely burst onto the scene and the other fighter has maintained his status as one of the top fighters in the world. My first example, my first mention, Israel Adesanya. My second, Robert Whittaker. Now, Robert Whittaker has had some tough sledding as of late. He's had some injuries that have prohibited him from competing in the cage and haven't allowed him to defend that belt as much as he would like. But I know one thing's for sure. He is geared up for this fight. I know another thing is for sure. Israel Adesanya is geared up for this fight. And when you look at the history of both fighters as far as their careers and the fights that they've had, they've both been able to fight entertaining fights where people have been just completely shocked at how savage these guys are. Now, whether it's Adesanya with the spinning back kicks and the spinning elbows and the Superman punches and all the weird spinning techniques that he throws, or whether it's Robert Whittaker, who is just a fundamentally sound, clean counterpuncher, great kickboxer, those two styles always clash with one another, and those two styles always make for an entertaining fight. I think the key to victory, I should say, for both Adesanya and for Whittaker is to be themselves. As simple as that sounds. Adesanya has to throw the spinny stuff, and Whittaker has to keep to the basics, stick to the basics, stick to what he knows, stick to what has worked for Robert Whittaker. And for Robert Whittaker, when I look at his career, he has embarked on quite the journey. Because I remember a Robert Whittaker not so long ago that was fighting as a UFC welterweight, fighting an eventual number one contender to the UFC welterweight title, and that was Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Wonderboy pretty much decimated Whittaker. And that kind of made Robert Whittaker say to himself, I gotta do something different. Something's not going right. I'm not doing something right. I gotta get back on the horse and get back in the gym and figure out what it is that I'm not doing right. How am I not preparing right? What is it? What's going on? And ever since that fight, Robert Whittaker has completely changed. His career path has completely gone from one end to another. He's gone from being a UFC middleweight from being a UFC welterweight, to a now UFC middleweight champion. And you can say whatever you want about how Whittaker might be injury prone, or how Whittaker hasn't defended the belt, or how Whittaker hasn't fought, the true best of the best. You can say all that stuff, and maybe you're right. I can't really disagree with that. But the one thing I can disagree with everybody on is that Whittaker is not a talented fighter. I've heard people say that. I've heard people say, Robert Whittaker doesn't really impress me. Robert Whittaker doesn't really do a whole lot to, wow me. I don't get that. I don't share that same sentiment. If anything, I'm actually pretty wowed by Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker is far better than he's given credit for, and in the current UFC landscape of the best of the best, the names that we know, the John Joneses, the Khabib Nurmagomedovs, I don't know why Robert Whittaker isn't talked about more. Now, I know it could be in large part due to the fact that he has had injuries and he hasn't fought in a while. But when you look at Robert Whittaker, when he has fought tooth and nail. He has fought entertaining fights. He has been an entertaining fighter. The one thing that Robert Whittaker doesn't do and doesn't want to do is talk and promote and do the things that a Conor McGregor or a Nate Diaz or another fighter would. And I like that, actually. I look at this fight as a throwback. I look at this fight as a throwback to the past and hopefully a trend in the near future, and that is the best fighting the best and nothing else. Nothing else matters. Winning is everything. Nothing else matters. No talk, no promotion, nothing. Now, Israel Adesanya will do that on his own. He likes to talk. He likes to, talk himself up. He likes to be confident and show everybody that he is confident. Israel Adesanya will take care of that all on his own. One thing that I know for a fact is that Israel Adesanya is not really trash-talking Robert Whittaker. He's just saying that he believes in himself that much, that he knows that he can do this, that, and the other, and he can dictate the pace of the fight. I can't necessarily disagree with him on that. I can't go out of my way and say that he's wrong for saying that, because he can do those things. He can be that guy. He can throw the spinning back kicks and the spinning elbows and all the crazy stuff that he throws. And that makes for an entertaining fight. That's what we want to see as fight fans. So when I look at this fight and I see that you have one guy that's willing to talk, one guy that's willing to throw this high-flying, spinny stuff, you have another fighter that I love to call it the spinny stuff, because I literally can't even put a distinction on it other than that, because Israel Adesanya is he's unpredictable in there. Some of the punches, some of the kicks that he throws are unpredictable. But going up against a fighter like Robert Whittaker, going up against a fighter that does have a completely well-rounded game, and I think that gets lost. And in the world of mixed martial arts, if you're a champion, more oftentimes than not, you are very, very well-rounded. Very well-rounded. Can we say that about Khabib Nurmagomedov? No, but the one card that he can deal out of his deck of cards, I guess you could say, or hand, is that he's a super athletic wrestler. And people have a hard time with it. With Robert Whittaker, he's good at everything. At everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. There's no weakness in his game. He's good at everything. He's not really great at anything. He's good at everything. There's not one discipline that he's better in than another. He's just solid across the board. Some people can say that's plain. Some people can say that's boring. But as a champion, that's really what you want. You want to be durable. You want to be tough. But you also want to be as well-versed in every discipline as possible, whether it's boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, offense, and defense. Robert Whittaker is very well-versed, and I think that's going to pose some trouble for Israel Adesanya. Can also say that Robert Whittaker has never fought anyone like Israel Adesanya before. So that's what makes this fight so interesting. The fact that Whittaker has the ability to win this fight very easily, and the fact that Israel Adesanya also has the ability to win this fight very easily as well if he catches Robert Whittaker, the Reaper, with something that he has never seen before, then that's where this fight could really end. But I think Robert Whittaker is one of those fighters that is just too tough, too mentally sound, too dialed in to what is exactly going on. And that's why he's a champion. And I guess when I say that's why Robert Whittaker is a champion, I kind of smirk when I say that, because if you know your UFC history, Robert Whittaker actually never won the belt from the actual lineal champion. Never won that title from Georges St. Pierre. Michael Bisping was the champ. He was supposed to fight Whittaker. He fought GSP instead to get that payday. GSP won, and then GSP vacated the title, and Whittaker was promoted as the UFC, from the UFC interim champ to the UFC middleweight champ. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that this is the true fight that will finally unify the title after 2 years. 2 years we've been waiting for this moment of a fight that would unify the titles between the regular, lineal, I guess you could say, UFC middleweight champ Robert Whittaker, and now the UFC middleweight interim middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. So that's what excites me for this fight, is that it is a few years in the making. It will have a massive attendance. It will create opportunity for both Whittaker and Adesanya to really put on a great show and really gain a mass number of fans. I mean, this fight is going to be probably one of the highest internationally purchased UFC pay-per-views in recent memory, due to the fact that Whittaker is a star in Australia and Adesanya is a star in New Zealand. Both of these fighters have international backgrounds. Both of these guys have kind of used that as a vehicle through the promotion of this fight. And I like that. That is a little bit different from the norm, and I think we need that. I think the biggest takeaway that I do have about this fight, outside of how these guys match up with each other, which is what I'm going to dive into next in a little bit, but it's that this fight is really a blast from the past, and hopefully it's a trend for the future, and that is the best versus the best. Winning is everything. Nothing else matters, and it's 1 versus 2. We'll find out who the true number 1 is. That, I think, is a lost art in MMA. We get so caught up in promotion. We get so caught up in the silly little things as fans that the best versus the best just hasn't really been something that's been the top of the priority list for the UFC. And I want to see that as a fight fan. I want to see the best fight the best. I don't care who's the most famous. I don't care who talks the best. I just want to watch the best fighters fight. That's it. And that's what we're getting here. This Saturday, October 5th, Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya. Now, as far as how these guys match up with one another and how I see the fight going down, I think Robert Whittaker would be really smart to use his wrestling base against a fighter like Israel Adesanya, with a guy that throws as much spinning stuff as Adesanya does. You want to take it to the ground and slow it down. Slow down the fight. Really drag out those 25 minutes, because that's an eternity in there. And make Adesanya work. And Kelvin Gastelum really exposed a little bit of a weakness in Adesanya's game, and that is his takedown defense. Skinny guy, skinny frame, skinny legs. They're very easy to grab onto. And I think that's something that Adesanya will have to deal with early on in the fight. And if not, if Adesanya has greatly improved his takedown defense and Whittaker tries to take him down and he can't for whatever reason, that being the main reason, or unless Whittaker gets hurt prior to this fight, let's hope he doesn't, Adesanya would then be able to create based on his striking ability. And boy, is this guy entertaining to watch as far as his striking. But I don't think he is the striker that Anderson Silva was in his prime. I don't think he's the striker that John Jones is in certain aspects, mixing the elbows and stuff like that. I think Israel Adesanya has great punches and great kicks, but I really want to say Adesanya throw in more finishing blows, elbows, knees. Through the Muay Thai clinch, I think Adesanya could have great success there versus Whittaker. If there's any weakness of Adesanya versus Whittaker, I'd say that Adesanya does have better clinch game as far as clinching to throw strikes, whereas Whittaker has better clinch game to clinch to wrestle. So we'll find out. But my pick for this fight, I think I have to go with the champ, Robert Whittaker. I know it's been a while for him in there, but I think that this will be a fight that he will show his well-rounded fighting ability, whether it's the stand-up, whether it's the wrestling. I think he'll win via decision. I think it'll be a 49-46 decision on my scorecards, maybe 49-46 and 48-47. Winner by unanimous decision, Robert Whittaker. I don't see this fight being cut short. The only way I could see that is if Adesanya gets the knockout. But I don't see Whittaker knocking out Adesanya. There you have it. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take, my preview and prediction for the UFC 243 main event. Robert Whittaker, the UFC middleweight champ, defends his title, will look to defend his title against UFC interim middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. Take care, everybody.